There are nights when we turn off every sound, yet the heart remains loud. Not because someone just left, but because we no longer know where we are in this life. In a world full of voices, there is no one who truly listens. Among thousands of connections, we still feel lost inside the very room we call home. Everything is still there. The fans hum, the light, the warmth of an old blanket. Yet the mind drifts somewhere far away, unable to find its way back. People call it loneliness. But loneliness is not just the absence of someone beside you. It is the feeling of not being able to reach yourself. We once thought that if only someone could understand us, the emptiness would fade. But the older we grow, the more relationships we have, the clearer one truth becomes. No one truly understands us. Not because they don't want to, but because we don't even understand ourselves. We wear smiles that have lost their soul. We tell stories rehearsed too many times. We pretend to be fine just to be left alone. Yet inside, we are hollow. So hollow that even our own breathing sounds like an echo from afar. Loneliness does not come from the lack of people. It comes from losing the connection with our own soul. We fear being alone, so we do everything to avoid facing it. We unlock the phone, scroll endlessly, seeking faces, words, stories to fill the void. But the more we scroll, the emptier it feels. Because what we're looking for isn't out there. We don't really want to see others. We're just afraid of seeing ourselves. Afraid to look into that deepest place where there are no voices, no labels, nothing to tell anyone. That place is silent, and we mistake it for emptiness. But that emptiness, perhaps, is the only invitation from the soul. Stop. Stay. Listen to me. We have long defined our worth through the eyes of others. When someone cares, we feel we matter. When we're forgotten, we feel invisible. But true worth doesn't come from attention. It comes from presence. Loneliness frightens us because it strips away all reflections. There is no one left to mirror ourselves through. No one left to perform for. No applause, no criticism. Only us, bare, unguarded. And in that moment, the mind trembles, for it doesn't know how to live without an audience. Yet perhaps that very moment is the beginning of truth. When there is nothing left to prove, nothing left to cling to, we touch the emptiness we've long avoided. And if we are brave enough to stay within it, we will see. Loneliness never came to punish us. It came to return to us the self we've abandoned. Loneliness is not a darkness against us. It is the darkness of a room where we forgot to turn on the light. When we stop, breathe slowly, and look deeply into it, we find not just emptiness, but a gentle stillness. The stillness we lost amid the noise of all our connections. Maybe the loneliness we fear is the only path that leads us back to freedom. Because only when there is no one left to hold on to, do we realize we are standing on our own feet. Only when there is no one left to perform for, do we begin to live as who we are. And only when silence lasts long enough, do we hear the real voice within, the voice we have forgotten in all the endless conversations. Loneliness is a mirror. It reflects everything we try to hide. And if we dare to look into that mirror, we may see what we thought was pain might be the very doorway to freedom. We often believe loneliness is proof of a failed life. That if we were good enough, interesting enough, lovable enough, someone would have stayed. Yet strangely, even those who seem to have everything, fame, friends, love, still sometimes wake in the night and feel empty. Loneliness does not choose the weak. It visits even the strongest souls, as if to remind us that no one can run from themselves forever. Some people fear silence more than darkness. They dread nights without messages, days off without their name being called, the quiet spaces between laughter and conversations. They fill the void with work, with sound, with people, with plans. But the more they fill, the wider the void becomes. Because the more we try to forget, the deeper we carve the truth that we are hiding. Hiding from what? From the very feeling of being alone. The sense that no one truly understands us, and no one truly needs us as we are. Loneliness has thus become the greatest paradox of modern life. We fear it, yet we're addicted to it. We fear being apart, but suffocate when we blend in. We crave to be understood, but fear being seen through. We long for freedom, but cannot bear its emptiness. Like someone standing before the sea, wanting to swim far, yet fearing the waves. Wanting to return to shore, but knowing the heart no longer belongs there. In truth, loneliness is not the enemy of love, but its shadow. For only those who have loved deeply can feel the emptiness left when love dissolves. Only those who have once belonged can understand what it means to be torn apart. Loneliness is the place where fragments of old affection melt away, preparing for something purer, a love that needs no object. But before we reach that, we must walk through the most fragile phase, what psychology calls the vortex of disconnection. We feel as though we've fallen out of the invisible web linking us to everyone else. No roles, no waiting eyes, no responses. It's as if we've vanished from the world. And that fear drives us to do anything to pull people back, even when we know they're no longer there. We think we need them to live, but in truth, we're only clinging to them, so we don't have to face the emptiness within. The irony is, at the core of loneliness hides the very thing we've been seeking all along: freedom. For only when there is no one left to reflect us can we be ourselves without performance. No need to appear strong, no need to pretend we're fine, no need to fear judgment. Loneliness takes away the listener, so that for the first time, we can hear ourselves. We've long thought loneliness was a black hole that swallows life. But seen differently, it's a still lake reflecting the true sky of the heart. The pain of being alone doesn't come from the absence of others, but from the absence of ourselves in our own life. We move too fast, stay too busy, forgetting that even the soul needs rest. Loneliness arrives like a gentle knock at the door. Are you still there? And if we dare to open it, loneliness is not as frightening as we thought. It is simply the space where illusions dissolve, where we finally see what is real love, what is habit, what is dependence. It keeps us silent long enough to realize that most of what we call connection is merely a thread of need, not of understanding. Loneliness does not kill us. It kills the illusions. It strips away the costume of I'm fine, the mask of I'm strong, and returns to us the original face we've hidden. And when we are most bare, we are closest to freedom. Because freedom is not about needing no one. It is about not being bound by the fear of losing anyone. Perhaps that is why those who have walked through the deepest loneliness are the ones who love with the calmest eyes. They do not need anyone to fill a void, yet when they give, their love carries no attachment. They do not come to cover emptiness, but to walk with another through it, in silence. Loneliness on its lowest level is pain. On the middle, it is truth. On the deepest, it is a doorway to freedom. But to reach that depth, we must dare to stay with it. Without judgment, without escape, without decoration. Just sit, like a candle in the night. And when that small flame begins to burn, we understand loneliness never came to take anything away, but to return to us one thing: the ability to be present. Loneliness is one of the deepest emotions a human being can experience, and yet it's the one we least dare to face. In a culture of noise, loneliness is seen as a sign of weakness, of failure, of being unloved. We are taught how to succeed, how to attract, how to make others like us, but no one teaches us how to be with ourselves. And so when the world around us falls silent, we panic. When there is no one left to talk to, we feel as if we no longer exist. When no eyes are there to reflect us, the self we believe in begins to dissolve. In psychology, humans are often compared to reflective beings. We form our sense of who we are by seeing ourselves through the gaze of others. Since childhood, we have learned to smile when praised, to shrink when criticized, slowly tying our worth to external reactions. And then one day, when there is no one left to react, we feel empty. But that emptiness doesn't come from the absence of others. It comes from never having known who we are beyond reflection. When we are alone, we begin to face the forgotten corners within, unhealed memories, wounds buried beneath busyness, dreams abandoned in the race to prove our worth. Loneliness does not create these things. It simply silences the noise long enough for us to start hearing them. That is why we fear it. Because when everything goes quiet, the mind has no one left to blame, only itself to face. Some people fear loneliness so deeply that they can't sit still for 5 minutes without picking up their phone. They can't bear the emptiness of a room, of an evening without messages, of a morning with no one waiting. Yet, if we look closely, that fear is not about the absence of others, but about not knowing what to do when we are not performing. Loneliness strips away the roles, removes the audience, leaving us standing bare on the stage of life. No script, no lines. And in that moment, we realize how long we have lived without truly being present. The more we fear loneliness, the more we try to escape it. But the more we run, the more we find it waiting everywhere. Because loneliness is not out there, it lives in the way we live. In every laugh that doesn't reach the heart, in every conversation meant only to kill time, in every moment beside someone when the soul longs to be elsewhere. Loneliness doesn't arise from lack, it arises from incompleteness. When we are not fully present in each moment, the mind creates distance, and that distance becomes loneliness. In its depth, loneliness is the call of the untouched parts of our being. While we stay busy avoiding it, the soul waits patiently. It doesn't need us to do anything, only to sit down. But modern humans have forgotten how to sit still. We live as if running from something, from silence, from emptiness, from ourselves. We want everything to have meaning right away. But loneliness doesn't work that way. It doesn't come to give us answers. It comes to dissolve the old questions. Loneliness, in its deepest sense, is a process of purification. It removes what is false so we can see what is real. When we stay with loneliness long enough, we begin to see the fine line between two things that look alike but are vastly different: being alone and being abandoned. Being abandoned is when we need someone to prove our worth. Being alone is when we realize that worth never needed proof. One is fear, the other is freedom, and the path between them, that is the journey of awakening. Some people have passed through loneliness and become quietly radiant. They no longer seek people to talk to, they listen more. They no longer try to prove, they simply live. They are not lonely, though still alone, because they understand. Being alone is not the absence of others, but the return to wholeness with oneself. Loneliness, therefore, is not something to erase, but a door to be opened. And that door opens only when we stop resisting it, when we sit still in the dark, letting the darkness melt into light, when we stop filling the space with words, letting silence begin to speak for us. Perhaps loneliness is life's way of bringing us back to the present, because only in loneliness do we realize we are still here, still breathing, still alive, even if no one sees, even if no one knows. And in that realization, something begins to bloom, small, pure, like a sprout breaking through stone. That is when loneliness ceases to be pain. It becomes the quiet soil where the seed of freedom begins to grow. If we look deeply enough, we'll see. Loneliness is not something that comes from the outside. It is the child born from the mind's sense of separation. From the moment we learned to say me and others, the world split in two. One half called myself, the other everything else. And in the very instant that boundary appeared, the seed of loneliness sprouted. It grew through every thought, every comparison, every desire to be acknowledged. Loneliness is not the state of the world. It is the consequence of a mind clinging to duality. When we see ourselves as separate from the whole, when we believe we are an individual that must be loved, protected, understood, we forget that our true nature has no border. In the spiritual path, this is called non-self. But non-self does not mean we cease to exist. It means realizing that the I we keep defending is not our true being. It is a structure built from memories, experiences, praise and blame, and the fear of abandonment. That I survives through reflection. It only knows it exists when someone sees it, names it, or reacts to it. When there's no one left to do so, it panics. It calls that feeling loneliness. But the truth is, only the false self is dissolving, while the deeper part of us, the silent witness, has never been lost. When we say, I am lonely, what we truly mean is, I can no longer feel my connection to life. For life is still here, in the breath, in the wind, in the morning light, but our mind is veiled by the heavy clouds of thought, memory, and ego. The more we act out roles, the further we drift from the root. The more we try to prove our worth, the more we cut ourselves off from the source. Loneliness is the soul's warning. You have wandered too far from yourself. Many try to escape loneliness by connecting more. They join groups, build communities, open their hearts to strangers. Yet the emptiness remains. Because surface connection cannot heal a wound that lies deep in consciousness. When we are not truly present, every bond becomes an illusion of closeness. Some sit among friends and still feel cold. Some lie in someone's arms and still fall into the void. For what needs to be touched is not the skin, it is the soul. And the soul can only be touched when we are wholly here, seen from its root, Loneliness is an invitation to return. It makes us stop. It pushes us into the silence where no one can shield us anymore. There, we must relearn how to live without an audience, how to listen without response, how to breathe without recognition. Only then can we feel what those living in crowds can't. The sense of being within ourselves, unpulled, unpushed, needing to be no one else. Those who walk deep into meditation know loneliness is the first gate to stillness. Entering, we think we are lost. But if we do not fear, if we simply stay, that silence begins to change its hue. It is no longer an absence, but a vastness that holds all things. From there, we see, behind every boundary of me and others flows one single current of life. When the mind stops dividing, loneliness dissolves. Not because someone arrived, but because we stopped cutting ourselves off from the whole. As long as we believe ourselves the center, the world will appear fragmented and loneliness inevitable. But when we see ourselves as part of the totality, we no longer feel lost. Like a drop of water entering the sea, it loses its name, but becomes infinite. The loneliness of the drop ends the moment it remembers it was never apart from the ocean. Thus, loneliness is not something to cure, but something to understand. Only through understanding do we stop resisting, and in the instant resistance ends, loneliness becomes the space of awakening. It opens a new vision of who we are, that we are not being searching for peace, but peace itself, merely forgetting its own face. When that truth is seen, we no longer fear the quiet. We no longer need words to prove our existence. We no longer need anyone to stay to feel we have worth. For we know, even alone in a desert, we are held by the same stream of life that sustains the universe. At that point, loneliness is no longer pain. It becomes a ritual, the soul's ritual of shedding its old garments to return to the nameless essence. And each time we dare to step into that emptiness, we come closer to what we've been seeking all along. True freedom. When we stop trying to name our emotions, everything begins to slow down. No more reasons, no more explanations, only the breath going out, coming in, steady and still. Loneliness is still there, but it no longer takes the shape of fear. It softens, like a gentle stream flowing through the mind, washing away the noise that's clung to it for so long. We realize it isn't loneliness that hurts, but the invisible resistance within us. All our lives we've been taught to fill, to move forward, to have someone beside us so we wouldn't be left behind. But when we sit down and stay with ourselves, those teachings start to fall away. No one is leaving anyone. No one is forgotten. There are only souls on their own journeys, parting for a while to learn how to stand. We are the same. We are learning to be still, learning to look into the emptiness without calling it empty. There is a strange moment when the mind begins to release. All haste stops. Time seems to pause. We sit in the same old room, yet space expands into infinity. Every sound softens. Even the ticking clock, the wind slipping through the cracks, all become the rhythm of life itself. Loneliness is no longer a stranger. It becomes a companion, saying nothing, offering no comfort, only presence. And within that presence, something begins to dissolve. We see that we've been afraid of the wrong thing. We feared loneliness, but in truth, we only feared the stillness it brings. Because in that stillness, there is nowhere left to hide, no more roles to play, no more pretending to be fine. But precisely for that reason, loneliness is the only door that leads to peace. Because peace is not having someone beside you. It is having nothing left to hide from yourself. A slower breath, a single tear, and suddenly, the heart feels lighter. Not because anything has changed, but because we've stopped resisting. We sit there in silence, like someone watching the rain outside the porch. Each drop a memory, a longing, a wound, falling, sinking into the earth, disappearing. No more pain, only wetness. No more weight, only quiet. In that moment, we understand why loneliness once frightened us, because it is the final threshold before the self dissolves. When there is nothing left to cling to, no one left to define us, we think we are vanishing. But in truth, it is then that we return to a strange state, empty yet whole, still yet alive, quiet yet full. Loneliness begins to shed its skin. It is no longer a dark place, but an open space. No longer separation, but the deepest form of connection, the meeting between us and the stillness within. When we touch that stillness, all seeking stops. No need for anyone to understand us. No need for company to feel enough. No need for words to chase away the silence. Because silence has become our friend. We no longer try to meditate, to let go, or to overcome. We simply are. And in that being, loneliness changes its name. It becomes rest. A state where we no longer search for peace because we ourselves are peace. Then the world is no different, but we see it differently. The light through the window turns tender. The sound of wind through leaves gains rhythm. Even the darkness carries warmth. Loneliness, it turns out, does not kill life. It illuminates the part of life we once forgot. And so we sit still, waiting for no one to knock, needing no one to come, sending no one away. Each breath a greeting to ourselves, each heartbeat a quiet sign that we are still here. And that is enough. Loneliness has fulfilled its purpose, to bring us back to the present, to return us to the deepest part of being, where we no longer ask, when will this loneliness end? But simply smile, having understood that we never truly left ourselves. Then one morning, when sunlight slips through the crack of the door, we suddenly feel an unusual stillness. Nothing has changed. The same room, the same sky, the same empty space around us. But inside, something has shifted. We are no longer afraid of loneliness. We sit in its quiet presence and feel no lack. Perhaps it is in the very moment we stop trying to fill the emptiness that we finally become full. Loneliness, once the place we ran from, has become the home we return to whenever the world grows too loud. We realize that all these years, it wasn't loneliness we feared. We feared having no one to reflect the image we wanted to believe in. We feared seeing ourselves in our raw form, without layers, without roles. But when we dare to look, we find there is nothing frightening at all. Behind the emptiness, life is breathing softly. Behind the longing to belong, there is a love that no longer needs an object. And behind the pain, there is a peace untouched by anything. When we sit still long enough, loneliness changes shape. It is no longer a closed room, but an open field. There, we no longer search for someone to love. We see love as the air itself, present in every breath. We no longer need anyone to fill our void, for we realize we were never empty. It was all just the mist of the mind, fading as the light of awareness shines through. Loneliness is the soul's final test. It doesn't ask how much we know, but whether we can stay in silence without fear. For only those who remain in silence long enough can hear the true language of life. It is not words, but a deep, warm knowing that we and the universe have never been apart. There is no me and others, no together or alone. Only presence, vast, nameless. Freedom does not come when we escape loneliness, but when we no longer wish to escape it. Because freedom is not having everything, it is being ruled by nothing. When loneliness no longer controls us, it becomes the teacher. It teaches us how to sit still, how to breathe, how to listen, how to love without holding. It teaches us that what truly belongs will never leave because it was never outside to begin with. There is a kind of stillness that comes only after long struggle. It is when we no longer need to win, no longer need to explain, no longer need to prove we are fine. In that moment, everything quiets, and we begin to hear the voice of kindness. Not a kindness turned outward, but one that radiates from within. The kindness we offer ourselves after years of abandoning our own heart in pursuit of something else. We begin to feel gratitude for loneliness, grateful that it made us pause, made us look deeper into the nature of attachment, made us see that love is not about holding, but about seeing. And in that seeing, we no longer crave to be filled, but only wish to keep the heart wide enough to love without possessing. At this point, loneliness is no longer a shadow over the heart. It becomes a soft light surrounding every thought. We can sit alone and not be lonely. We can be silent and not be empty. For in the deepest layer, life is still speaking to us. Through the rustle of leaves, the whisper of wind, the breath brushing softly across our lips, everything becomes transparent. Loneliness does not disappear. It is transmuted, like ice melting into water and water returning to the river. The mind is no longer divided, distance dissolves, the self no longer needs to prove itself, and freedom, which has always been there, steps forward. Light as smoke, steady as earth. When we understand this, we no longer beg anyone to stay, nor fear anyone leaving. Each person is a guest in each other's journey. When paths meet, we walk together. When they part, we bless each other in peace. We no longer ask love to fill our loneliness. We let love flow through it, like wind over a field, leaving fragrance without needing to remain. And when we can smile in silence, when we no longer need a reason to feel at peace, that is when loneliness has completed its purpose. It has brought us back to ourselves. When all has gone quiet, we suddenly realize loneliness never really left. It simply changed its form. Now, it is no longer the cold wind passing through the heart that makes us tremble, but a gentle warmth resting on our shoulder, whispering softly, "You are still here." We sit still, no longer waiting for someone to arrive, nor fearing anyone's departure. The world keeps spinning in its rhythm, and we simply watch like someone returning home after a long storm. Everything feels both familiar and new. The same light falls through the same window, yet today it feels tender. The clock still ticks, but each beat sounds like a lullaby. Within that stillness, the heart softens. No more demands, no more right or wrong, gain or loss. We simply feel each breath move quietly through us, feel the heart beating, not for anyone, not because of anything, but simply because life is here. Loneliness becomes the ground upon which everything grows truer, deeper. No longer a darkness that swallows, but a night that shelters the birth of light. We suddenly understand. Peace doesn't come when life is full, but when we are still enough to see that nothing needs adding. Peace isn't something to be found, it only needs to be unhidden. Just as the moon has never disappeared, only clouds drift across its face. And loneliness, perhaps, is the long night needed for us to see that light again. The light that does not come from outside, but shines from within. From now on, whenever loneliness returns, we will no longer turn it away. We will invite it in, pour it a cup of tea, and share the silence. Because we know that within that silence, we come home. Loneliness is no longer an enemy, but an old friend, one that has patiently waited for us to grow. And when we can sit with it, without judgment, without strain, loneliness becomes a doorway that opens to the boundless sky of the mind, where there are no lines between me and the world, between being alone and being loved. We gently close our eyes, listening to the breath. No prayers, no wishes, just a subtle feeling, as if the whole universe is breathing with us. And in that rhythm, we know we have arrived home. Not a home of bricks and walls, but the home within, where we have always belonged. So if one day loneliness knocks again, do not fear. Open your heart and welcome it, as one greets an old friend returning from a long journey. Let it tell you about the parts of yourself still unseen, the quiet corners you once forgot. And when the story ends, simply smile. For you know that nothing is ever truly lost, only remembered. If we are meant to, we will meet again, perhaps in a quiet afternoon, in the sound of falling rain, or within a familiar moment of solitude. And when that happens, just remember, loneliness was never against us. It was only teaching us how to come home.